So we are seeing, moments of joy. We are seeing joy erupt on the streets of Tehran, also in world capitals. But there have been a set of pictures that have again come to us from Iran, where there are some who are mourning the passing of Ayatollah. We are also being told that another top general of the Revolutionary Guard has been killed. The Secretary of Defense Council has also been killed. So there is essentially the attempt of Israel and America right now, after taking out Ayatollah Khomeini, is to kill the entire top military and political leadership so that a new regime can be put in place. Israel, in fact, is putting out, and they're putting out pictures, satellite pictures as well, where they're saying that at least 30 targets 30 locations in Iran have been targeted in a fresh wave of strikes this morning, and that continues as we speak. President Donald Trump, in an interview to CBS, is saying now there is a possibility of a diplomatic solution. That possibility much stronger today than it was yesterday, which means it was impossible to speak to the Ayatollah about a diplomatic solution. But now that he's been taken out, he's been killed, a diplomatic solution could be possible now. But given the strikes and the counter strikes we are seeing, that looks highly unlikely. Rishabh, you're joining us on the broadcast. Sierra Claire joining us on the broadcast as well. Good morning to you. Abhijit, good morning to you as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a big update in the story that is developing this morning after Ayatollah Khomeini was taken out in American and Israeli strikes last morning. That confirmation coming in this morning. The US is making a sensational claim. This is what they are saying, and I will play out that soundbite as well, but just reading it out while we cue that. This is coming from the official account of Ambassador Mike Waltz. He is the U.S. representative to the United Nations. This is very interesting because he's claiming that the Iranian, I'm reading out that tweet, the Iranian regime has even attempted to assassinate the U.S. President Donald Trump. Now they are masquerading as a victim. Now we have taken lawful action. Sierra, have we heard this before? The Americans claiming that the Iranians were trying to assassinate Donald Trump? Or is this the first time you're hearing of it?
No, this has been a concern for President Trump since his first term, and there have been threats, that they've found coming from Iranian agents who were trying to find ways to plan an assassination. So, and I remember, I think Trump even mentioned it once, and he said that they made a mistake when they, when they targeted him in that way, and he said he doesn't forget. And, so now we're seeing that he did not forget. And obviously, I think these strikes, as I've said before, were instigated by Iran's failure to engage on the nuclear issue and the negotiations that President Trump wanted to have. But it is, all of these other things do come into play. And I think that they miscalculated who they were dealing with President Trump.
But Sierra, the fact is that the Iranians were negotiating on the US, on the nuclear deal with the US. They were very much on the table. In fact, it is Donald Trump who pulled out from the deal.
Well, the Iranians were at the table, but they were not offering any concessions. And President Trump said several times that by the next meeting he expected them to come with concessions. And we heard that those meetings that just took place right before these strikes, the news report that came out from the U.S. side anyway was that they were very far apart still.
Abhijit,
Mike Waltz, who's the U.S. representative to the United Nations, now claiming that one of the reasons that the U.S. decided to do what it did is because the Iranians tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Let's quickly listen into that.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to exercise my right of reply to the so-called representative of the Iranian regime. The United States strongly rejects this ridiculous and franco-farcical assertion that U.S. actions are inconsistent with international law. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted, quote, "Death to America," at every turn, at every opening of its parliament. It has sought to eradicate the state of Israel. It has waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder. It is responsible for a series of unprovoked armed attacks targeting the United States and Israel, violations of the UN Charter, and threats to international peace and security across the Middle East. It has even attempted to assassinate the U.S. president, President Trump. It has done so not only directly, but through its proxies, seeking to hide and mask its bad actions while publicly claiming to be a victim. Iran's menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, our partners, our allies around the world. The United States has made every effort to negotiate a peaceful resolution of this conflict with Iran, but Iran has failed to take that opportunity. So in close coordination with the government of Israel, the United States has taken lawful actions to address these threats in line with Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations. And Mr. President, I'll just throw on a final note. You know who is not complaining tonight? You know who is not citing the vagaries of international law? You know who is celebrating in the streets around the world? The Iranian people. Mr. President, maybe, perhaps just maybe, they will finally be free. I thank you.
Sierra, you just heard what Mike Waltz there said. The fact is that President Trump had told protesters in Iran way back in January that help is coming. No help came. The help has come end of February. What pushed it? What was the trigger? I ask you that question because Washington Post is now reporting that it was the Saudis who actually lobbied for these airstrikes.
I've heard that report as well. I think that when the other countries that are experiencing threats from Iran, expressed to President Trump that they would support an action like this, of course, he takes that into consideration. But President Trump ultimately makes his own decisions. And I believe that the timing of this strike was related to the meeting that they had with the leader and the top generals from the Iranian regime. And so this was an opportunity that they saw and that the Israelis saw to initiate these strikes, with that opportunity to strike the regime and get a lot of targets in one go. In terms of President Trump wanting to help the protesters, he did and he does. He always said, though, that the naval armada deployment was in relation to the nuclear issue.
A 40-day mourning has been declared by Iran. I think I said 7 somewhere in the